Everybody, and welcome back to another week of the Health Wealth Podcast. I'm back with Barry, who's back here with me again this week. How are you doing, Barry?
I'm doing good, Ryan. Thanks for having me again. Pleased to be here. And yeah, it seems like it's been a little while, but
Yeah.
it's certainly not been a holiday relaxation time. Been doing a lot of work in between this. Uh, most notably, filming my uh, first BK athleticism initiation course, which is a beginner's course for bodyweight training and mobility. So pleased to say that I've got all that filmed. It was a great experience. Presented many different challenges, but
Mm.
great experience, as I said, and now in the process of editing all the footage, getting it ready for the course. But yeah, pleased to be back on discussing all things health and human optimization, and got a couple of interesting topics I'm going to just touch on and delve into today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually the last episodes we recorded together were the live ones, I think,
I think
which,
so,
which,
yeah.
which was quite a few weeks back now. So that's gone super quick. That has.
It was, and
Yeah.
we did a lot of promotion for that, and I got some great feedback from people about the content and the professionalism of it all, and just the quality of guests as well. So that's
Yeah.
something that we're really building on.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great experience. We need to be getting some more live ones booked in, but for now we're back to the remote. And while it doesn't look as good, we can still cover just as good topics. So I think today we were going to talk about a couple of different things. The first thing we were going to maybe touch on is there's a fallacy or a myth that people have that eating healthy is expensive, and especially eating like animal based is expensive because obviously meat is more expensive, and they're trying to make it more and more expensive because they're trying to price us out of being able to eat it. But obviously we want to kind of address that and see, is it actually more expensive, or is it just that the individual items are more expensive? Are you going to spend more overall? So I don't know, what's your opinion on that kind of myth?
Well, from what I've found, there's two things. So the first one is, they are trying to prices out of meat, or raising the price of meat. Well, certainly in this country, from what I've noticed. But at the same time, the other thing is, this is the one thing in life that you should not hold back on. Even if it costs a bit more, you have to be able to push out the boat a bit more and spend the money on good quality food instead of cheap carbohydrates like rice and pasta. That's something it's so crucial to your health. It's better holding back or cutting back on other things. But something that I've noticed recently is if you go into the supermarket at later times, there's a lot of meat that is reduced. So I got like pork fillet, for example, for I think it was £4.10, and it was down to £1.90, and it was the next day. But you buy it and you freeze it. You freeze it straight away, and you pick the day that you're going to have it. And there was other things there. There was pork belly, which I love. Again, not the first, not the highest. It's in a high tier of in terms of the nutritional content with regards to meat, but it's not quite as high as a sirloin or a beef steak or organ meat, but it's still pretty good in terms of your fat and your protein content. That was reduced. I got there was also some steak that was reduced, and you just find different things that you can be efficient on. Like get it if it's on offer. Go in at a later time. There's always some that's on offer. Get it, freeze it, and cook it for another day. It's a great strategy to have, especially if you are on a budget. But that's something that I have noticed. So I've kind of been changing the times that I start to go in, a bit later and see what I can find. But ultimately, we've all got busy lives, and we only get most people only have a set amount of time in which they can go shopping, and if they tend to go in, earlier on in the day or early in the evening, be strategic about it. The meat it has gone a bit up in price, but it's important that you buy it because your health is everything. And buying cheap carbohydrates as an alternative in order to keep the costs lower is not conducive for long-term health at all. It's okay for having a little bit, as I say, I still have a bit of carbs. I'm quite wary of the amount that I have now. It's probably the only thing that I actually count or not try and calculate to the letter, because as we've talked about before, the calculations aren't 100% accurate, when it comes to the content, nutritional content. But it's a rough calculation, and I'll look at the pack and I'll say, right, if I'm going to have a wee bit of rice, then I'll measure. I'll try and keep it, under 40 grams, so.
Yeah.
But that's okay, having that, and that is a cheap alternative. But it's and of course it's readily available to burn for energy. But it is for many reasons that we've gone into and will continue to go into. It's not conducive for long-term health. It's important to have the majority of your food meat based or fish as well, some fish as well. And if you have to spend a bit more than that, then that's fine. But actually, you look at some of these microwave meals and these oven meals, they're actually even more expensive than the foods that come, like the actual meat that comes, as in its natural source, without any other ingredients added in. Some of them are just as expensive as that. Plus, you're getting a lot of preservatives and additives and sugar put into these things. So you actually can end up not feeling very full after it as well, and you can end up eating more, try and satiate yourself. So being strategic about it and buying the majority, making sure the majority of your food is meat based and has got a lot of protein. You can do it on a budget, and it's in the long run, it's not that much more expensive, especially if you can, make things in the slow cooker and you're buying, for example, I'll get, if I want to be, really kind of strategic about it price wise, I'll buy a lot of turkey mince, which still has a pretty decent content of protein and fat. No carbs, and I'll put that in the slow cooker and make chili, and then you can freeze it, so and you can have it in the next couple of days or the next week or whatever. So that costs probably less than ready-made meals and these pasta sauces and things that you're adding in. So when you actually add it all up, you're eating more optimally for a lesser price, and you're getting the nutritional benefits out of it. So, the fact that eating optimally is more expensive, it is a fallacy. And when you actually eat optimally, you end up buying a lot less than what you need. You end up kind of leaving out all the vegetables that you used to buy, the fruit, and all these other ingredients you actually don't need, and just keep it simple, and that saves you in the long run too. So that's an overall summary, I would say, of the fallacy of the eating optimally is too expensive. There's many ways and means of getting around that.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. It's as you say, there's ways to do it. If you're on a really tight budget, you can go for cheaper cuts of meat. You can go in when it's reduced. You can do things like that. But you have to weigh up that there's a lot that you're not buying anymore. So while like a nice cut of meat, like a ribeye steak or something that's decent, yes, it will cost more than maybe the part for a cheap part for a meal, like a pasta sauce and some pasta. But it's going to fill you up more, and you're going to get other things that come with that other meal. You're going to get the pasta sauce and the pasta. You're going to have maybe some vegetables with it. Maybe you're going to put a little bit of meat in with it too. You've got all this stuff. Then you're not full, so you're snacking. One of the key things that you don't snack. I don't snack. I don't need to worry about getting breakfast bars and biscuits and things to have for a snack. I literally just eat my meals. So there's a lot less. You're not buying fizzy drinks. or loads of, I mean, some people that do carnivore MMO still have some coffee, but even people that have it will probably cut down a bit. But other people are buying loads of coffees, plus their takeaway coffees they get when they're out, all the money they spend on that. As you say, vegetables and fruit, because the cost of everything's gone up. Everything you're buying is more, like, the spreads to go in your sandwiches that you're making and to go on your toast. You've got to get your cereals and your milk and all of this stuff. And we're literally just buying meat and eggs. So while individually the items might cost more per item, once you weigh it up, it's not really different. I mean, just as a quick experiment before the podcast, I just went on Asda and I just got like a standard kind of week's shop. I mean, it's not an exact science, because I just put basic stuff in for a standard one and basic stuff in for what I would maybe eat in a week on a meat based. And they weren't that dissimilar. The standard shop was coming in about 75, £80. The meat based was coming in about £70. That's just from Asda, from a supermarket. So they're not really different. They're pretty similar, and like you say, you can find good deals. I think most people that I've spoke to on carnivore do find that they're actually spending less overall on their shopping than they used to, because, like I said, when you're eating snacks and stuff and you see, some sugary cake bars, I'll grab some of them for a snack, I'll grab breakfast bars and cereal. You grab all this stuff that really you don't need to eat. They're empty calories, as we talk about. And
empty.
So like meat, eggs, they actually fill you up. So you need to eat less total food, because what you're eating fills you up. So you need to buy less. And if you're going to only eat grass-fed ribeye steaks direct from a farm or butcher, you're probably going to spend a bit more. But you don't need to do that. You can eat just soup. You can eat supermarket meat. I mean, grass-fed is going to be the best meat, but if you eat meat from the supermarket, it's still better than eating all them carbohydrates and processed foods. So it's still a step up, and it's cheaper. Even eating, I get my grass-fed meat from Pearson Farming, but there's some steaks in there, there's mince in there, there's big joints in there. So it's not all, the price works out pretty good overall. It lasts me a whole month. And then I get a couple little bits from the butchers. Again, you can get good deals at the butchers. If you have a local butchers, go down, just get whatever meat they've got on offer. It's not that expensive. And so I think, like you said as well, people need to take into account the cost of their health. Firstly, I don't think it's more expensive in the first place. But even if it was slightly more expensive, is it not worth it? It's your health. Your health is the most important thing you have. It's very hard to get back once you've lost it. And you only have one body, and you need to look after it. And I think of all the things you're going to invest in, like another thing, which I know you've touched on before as well, is takeaways. People don't want to spend, let's say it could only work out as like 10, £15 extra a week on meat. Let's just say they're trying to get high quality meat. They don't want to do that, but 20, 25, £30 each weekend on a takeaway, they're fine with. And it's getting your priorities in order, because it's well worth spending the extra on the meat. It's not well worth spending the extra on takeaways. And as I say, if you eat a standard diet and you have reasonably regular takeaways and eat out, you will be spending more than on a meat-based diet, guaranteed. You don't think you do because it's broken up. Your shopping's only this much, but add your takeaways on, add your meal out, add your coffee every time you go past Costa, add on every time you buy a sugary snack when you're out because you want a bag of crisps or a cereal bar or whatever when you're out. Add all that up, you're guaranteed to be spending more than someone on a meat-based diet. Because when I'm out and about, I do not buy anything. I don't need to buy any food when I'm out and about. I don't need snacks. I don't need a little bit of this. The food I'm going to eat is what is in my shopping, and that's it. And so it's overall going to be cheaper for me.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing about the takeaways, I mean, the Just Eats and the Uber Eats is absolutely scandalous what people are spending, and the 25, £30 even. And that alone you can buy some, even if it's not the highest quality meat. Yeah, you do want to get some now and again. I'll get some good quality grass-fed steak or beef shin as well from the butcher. Go a bit higher quality, but generally I'll just go for the standard stuff. Still optimal eating, as you say. But that amount that people are spending on Just Eats and Uber Eats or whatever it's called, that can you spend that on meat, that can sustain you for like a week and a half. If it's just you, it can sustain you for a couple of weeks with the amount of that you can amount of optimal food that you could buy just on that one takeaway. You know, when you actually calculate it and add it up, and you're quite strategic about it. So it's absolutely crazy, you know. And it's funny, you see all these cyclists about now. Well, certainly where I am, you see them all the time, you know, with their big backpacks delivering Just Eats, you know. And it's funny because I mean, they're just doing their job. They're getting paid, you know. It's the system that's the problem. That's what it is. They're doing their job, and you know, some of them are doing it for extra money. Good on them, you know. But it's funny because they're actually getting paid to do it. They're getting exercise, cycling, to deliver the food. But what they're actually doing is making the other person poorer and more unhealthy at the same time. So it's just like, I mean, who's winning? You know, are the big corporations winning? Is the customer winning, or is the middleman winning? You know, the delivery cyclist. You know, if you had to, who's actually winning there? Well, I would say that it's the people who are actually producing it's the chains, isn't it? It's the franchises that are, but the customer thinks they're winning because they're eating what I would have to say is actually I've had a Just Eat before. It's very average, but they think they're winning because you know, this all comes in this fancy packaging and everything. But you know, it's a vicious cycle, you know. So they don't have to be doing that job. They choose to do it. That's fair enough. But they are contributing to the problem, but it's not actually their fault because they're not the source of the problem, you know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It depends on what way you look at it. But you know, I had a KFC like a couple of weeks ago, but it was earned. It was one night. I went to the gym the next day. I ate optimally the whole week, and at least I got in my car and I went to the drive-through and got it. So I actually got the experience of what it was to go and get your takeaway. You know, like the drive-through, the interaction with the employee, and just, you know, at least I didn't sit at home and just push buttons on a screen. So I kind of felt that although I was doing it and it wasn't good for me, I was doing it old school. You know, I was at least getting up and going to get it myself, you know. So yeah, this whole convenience, this culture of convenience now, it's very detrimental in many ways. But yeah, as you say, back to the point, it's certainly not conducive to a healthy lifestyle ordering these things. And the cost is when you actually add it all up, and you add up the coffees, and you add up the Greg's donuts, and you know, the steak bakes, and you know, this little treat and that little treat. It's incredible how much it costs. I saw someone at the gas station the other day. They were buying a bottle of Oasis, another fizzy juice bottle, and like a Yorkie bar and something else. It must have come to over £6. I mean, they'll do that every day, and that's just snacking. So what is that? That's like 36. Okay, they're not going to the gas station every day, but they'll find something, to a newsagent or whatever, to buy this stuff from. I mean, that could be like £30 a week on purely pointless snacking. It's crazy when you add it all up in a month. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. People don't think about adding those things in. You know, they'll just say, well, my weekly shop is £80, and if I ate just meat, it would cost me £100, let's say. But they don't add in the fact that on a standard week on their diet, they're spending 30, 40 quid on snacks, coffees, and whatever. And suddenly now that's at £120 and the meat's at 100. So it works out cheaper. And so, you know, it balances out. Like I say, I will the only food I eat is the food I buy. Now and again, we go to a restaurant and I'll order a meal and eat out. But takeaways don't do. I don't need to snack in the day. I'm never out and think, oh, I just need to buy some food or a drink. It's simple. It's this way of eating is so simple and so
Well,
basic.
that's where the fasting comes in as well. You
Yeah,
know, when you're fasted, it's almost like it's normal, and to not. I don't even think about it. You know, it's like
yeah,
7 o'clock. We're open for business. Not not 1 minute before, or no, maybe not 1 minute before, maybe not like that, but 7 o'clock roughly is when business opens. So there's,
yeah,
no,
exactly.
it
And when
takes
we're
away the temptation, if you will. You know.
yeah. you're eating the right foods, you're giving your body the nutrition it needs, and you're fat adapted, you don't get those severe cravings to eat. I used to be like that when I used to eat carbohydrates and eat a standard diet like everyone else. Well, not even a standard diet. I was eating what I would consider and what most would consider a reasonably healthy diet. But obviously, I know now it wasn't healthy. But after I'd eaten, within a couple hours, I had to eat.
Yeah.
Now, if I go all day without eating, so what? Like, no different to me. So it makes a big difference. And soon, once you do that and you take away all those snacks and all those little bits, I mean, I used to take a lunch to work, and I used to have about 15 different items in there of stuff. I mean, nothing too massive. And again, I was a large majority of it was fruit. I used to eat a lot of fruit, but I had all these different things in there. And you add all them up, they definitely cost more than a steak. So
For sure.
it's balancing that out. I think personally, I don't think it's any more expensive. The only way it'd be more expensive is if you're getting sort of top quality meat, and even then, I think it's value for money. I
Value for
think
money. That's it. That's it.
you're
Spot on.
getting what you pay for, and I think it's completely worth it. And it's really sad that in society these days we value health so low. We value, as you mentioned before, convenience and comfort's the enemy of progress. And we've become so comfortable that not only are we not progressing, but we're regressing. We're getting worse and worse. And as you say, having food delivered to your door within 20 minutes and stuff from Amazon Prime delivered to your door in the same day. Like, we're so lazy, and it's really terrible for us. And also, I know we mentioned before when we spoke off camera, and we spoke about it before, is also you have to look at the ingredients in these foods you're buying for convenience. Not even just the takeaways. We know they're for rubbish. In the store, you're buying your pre-made sauces and your soups and stuff like that. And they're full of rubbish. You're not just costing
Yeah.
yourself with not getting the optimal nutrition. You're poisoning yourself too, and not saving yourself any money. There's literally no reason.
No. No, and these things are full of sugar and additives and preservatives, even though they can cost less than a pound. But you're going to end up feeling hungry again pretty soon, and you're going to try and satiate yourself with more of that rubbish. But very interesting what you were saying there about the fact that it is convenient, and that we as humans need to we need to sort of listen to our bodies more. Like when we're eating good quality steak, we're getting all the nutrition, it is filling us up, but we start to get a sense of how our bodies are reacting to it. And when you're eating optimally, you do end up feeling great. You don't need to overeat, and I think this is where something called intuitive eating comes into play, which is actually, really interesting. It's about, listening to your body, and knowing when you're basically satisfied, and having that intuition and that instinct, if you will, to educate yourself on what is the right amount for you, when you're satiated, when you don't need to overeat, and when you need to start eating, I guess, on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. I've been looking a bit into this lately, the intuitive eating, and I found a really interesting study that we're going to talk a little bit about today, which I sent to you. But it's just intuitive eating. If you look at the whole, planet Earth, every single animal, no one tells them what to eat. They eat what they want to eat. They eat intuitively, and they're all healthy. And throughout, you don't see animals obese. You don't see animals with cardiovascular disease. You don't see animals with diabetes. They're all absolutely fine. The reason animals die in the wild normally is a predator killing them,
Yeah, yeah,
or if they injure themselves, they haven't got any hospitals for emergency treatment, and if they've got a wound, it probably become infected. They could die from that, or just from old age, but they don't die from sickness. The only
no,
animals, in fact, that get sick are pets, because we feed them a diet. Animals left to pick their own food are healthy. animals that we feed are not. And I've been looking into this because I think and I feel, and I'm pretty sure that it's 100% right, is that humans must have also ate this way for the millions of years, however long it is, of our existence, because otherwise we wouldn't be here today. It's
Yeah.
only in the last, sort of, I don't know, probably maybe a few thousand. I mean, the last sort of 100 years, we've really had, governments and authorities trying to tell us what to eat. Maybe for the thousand of years before that, since agriculture started, you've
The
probably been being
agricultural
told
revolution.
probably
Yeah.
probably been being told more of what to eat from there. But before that time, no one was telling you what to eat. There was tribes dotted around the world in different places that had no communication with each other, and yet as a whole, humans thrived. They grew, and their numbers expanded and expanded, and we reached the what we have now. And so we must have been able to eat intuitively. There's no other way that we would have made it that far if we didn't know what to eat. No one counted calories. No one knew what your blood levels were. No one knew what nutrients or vitamins you needed. No one knew any of this stuff. They ate. They followed their body. They ate, and they were healthy. So I think that we must have been. And then I came across this study which was so interesting. I sent it over to you. Did you have a chance to have a read through it and have a look?
I've had a little look through it. Yeah, it was quite vast. But yeah, it's something that I'm definitely going to look more
Yeah,
into. Especially with younger children as well.
yeah, yeah. It's super interesting. It was done. I mean, the thing is that a study like this wouldn't be allowed to be done nowadays. So this study will never
Yeah,
be repeated,
yeah,
which is a shame. It will never be repeated. I think it was like was it the 1930s? I can't remember now exactly. Something back in Canada, I think they did it, and it was how many children did they have? I think it was maybe up to about 30 children. They had, or it might have even been less that they had. But essentially, what they did is, I think that these children were either um, put up for adoption or were kind of just orphaned at birth, or whichever one. So they were in an orphanage, so they were able to monitor them permanently, basically from when they were born. So I think it was from maybe the age of about 6 months and up, potentially, that they monitored them, and they had a list of foods that they would offer to them. And what they did is the kids, obviously they were babies when they started, they had no outside influences on what foods they should eat, and the nurses that sat with them when they ate were not allowed to offer them anything or to put them towards anything. They just had foods put in front of them,
yeah,
and they would eat whatever they wanted to. And if they signaled for one, the nurse could feed them, or they could feed themselves with their hands. And obviously the foods were measured out, and then what wasn't eaten was measured and taken back. So there was like 34 foods on the list. They said they didn't do all of them for every meal, but they would always give them a good variation. And it wasn't all meat. They had some fruit and some vegetables and other stuff on there. They had all types
yeah.
of foods.
Turnips, cabbage, cauliflower, that sort of thing as
Yeah,
well.
but
There was a whole mix of stuff.
it was all there was no processed foods, no sugar foods. It was and no multiple ingredient foods. So they didn't even offer bread. They said because it was multiple, so it was all single ingredient.
Yeah, in its natural form.
Natural form, as healthy as you can. They offered them to them, and basically the results were amazing, because the children, they followed them for 6 years, I think, and they were all absolutely healthy, no deficiencies in anything. And I think they said that none of them got that there was no constipation. They didn't get sickness or diarrhea at any point. They now and again would get the odd cold, but very mild. And there was one time that they all got glandular fever, which didn't last too long. They got over it. And other than that, it was nothing. Absolutely healthy, no deficiencies, which is amazing. And they all ate completely different diets, was another thing. So they did not follow the same thing. And all of them changed over time as well. And one of the most interesting things that I found was there was a couple of them that when they came to them, they had rickets. And so for the ones that had rickets, I think one or two only had it very mild, and they were just as normal. But there was one or two that had it more serious, and they would give them a little like a little cup of fish oil as well as one of their options, but didn't make them take it as an option. And the first little boy that came to them, he had rickets quite seriously, and the fish oil, he took it. He would take it by choice for a couple of months, until his rickets was gone, and then he never touched it again. Like that.
Yeah.
That is great. That literally like almost blows my mind when I read it. Like he's a baby and he literally took cod liver oil until his rickets had cleared up and then never took it again. That is eating intuitively. There's no other explanation for that. Because if he just liked it, he would have carried on. But
Yeah.
the fact that he stopped, like that was, I found that part especially amazing, that and super interesting.
Yeah, that is, and it's also that's his body telling him something as well, and him acting on that. It's he didn't carry on taking the cod liver oil after this condition had dissipated, but he was listening to his body and acting intuitively, which is that's super powerful, and
Yeah.
it's important that we do that as humans as well. And instead of just acting on impulse. But it does help when you're putting the right things into your body and you don't feel full up again in a couple hours, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just really, really interesting. And the fact that they said that the kids ate really weird diets. They ate stuff that you wouldn't put together,
Yeah,
but they ate strange, but they were all really healthy, and they were fine. And I think they said about the calories were just the standard amount that you'd expect a child to be eating, but they just ate it across, maybe random types of foods, and they kept themselves healthy. And you have to compare that to the state of kids today.
yeah.
Okay, kids today are being given food to eat by their parents, and look at the state of them. It's horrible. I hate seeing it. I really hate seeing it. I've said this before, and an obese child is child abuse to me. It's child abuse. The child has no say in that. If you've given your child the poisonous foods to make it obese, that in my mind is child abuse. It's horrible to
Yeah,
see.
yeah. I did see. I actually saw some in the supermarket the other day at and I can only assume that it was the parent, but the kid was for the kid's age. He was, he was overweight, and whoever was with him, whether it was his mother or whoever it was, that the adult was quite happily saying, "Oh, which donuts would you like? Which cookies would you like? Oh, I'll have some of this." And it's not the kid's fault. It's like I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
Like it's just wrong. It's just wrong, and it's the kid. If that continues, that culture within whatever household or background he's from, that life, the kid continues in that lifestyle that's been kind of put upon him, then he's going to end up with chronic inflammation and health problems very, very soon, far too soon in life. So it is, and it's as you say, it's the sugar that is the main killer, because that is the main one that's causing these issues, and because it comes in so many forms,
yeah,
doesn't it? And it's so enticing to the child as well. But if that discipline has got to come from the parent or the family member or the carer or whoever it is, to not to make it so accessible for them, make it a treat, make it earned, or just don't make it available at all. Because as you say, that when the kids during this study, all these years ago, they weren't actually crying out for sweets and these treats, were they? They were body was naturally. They were naturally intuitively listening to their bodies. Whatever the foods that they were being given were good foods, and so they didn't actually feel the need to have that snack or that treat. So
yeah.
which is so different to nowadays, where it's basically everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And sugar is the danger, as you say. Another
Yep.
thing I've been really looking into lately, which we'll get into some depth on another podcast, I think, so it'd be interesting, is um, basically the whole addiction with sugar and food addiction, which is a real thing and a big thing and a big problem. And
Yep.
one of the things that's important about that study, which people would maybe say, oh, well, what about this, is that obviously the children weren't offered any sugary options. And people might say, oh, well, if they'd had sugary options, they probably would have ate them and been unhealthy. And you know what? If they'd tried the sugary option, they probably would have ended up unhealthy, because sugar is addictive. And I believe that sugar is one of the main reasons that humans no longer eat intuitively, because we've had it. Once you've had a child who's not had a sugary item is not going to crave it. You know, they crave the things their body actually needs. But once you've had that sugar, then your body is going to crave it because it's addictive and it's hard to get out of that. It's addictive for adults. So how's it going to be for a child? And so if you take the sugar out of the equation, I think humans could eat intuitively again. But I think that with all the sugar we have, and let's be honest, like we said, sugar's in everything. We mentioned before, as you said, that the ready-made pasta sauces and the soups. Like people would think,
Yeah,
oh, vegetable soup, that's probably healthy. A nice tomato pasta sauce with some pasta, a little bit of fish or chicken with it. That's a healthy meal. They're full of sugar. These sauces are full of sugar and rapeseed oil, and sugar is just it's a killer, and it's one of the main culprits of the addiction. In terms of the obesity, there's again other data I've been looking into recently that really seed oils, vegetable oils are perhaps the biggest driver of the obesity that's really blown up the last 40, 50 years. But
yeah,
sugar is a huge driver in health and in addiction because obviously the ancient Egyptians had diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So, we know that that was coming from sugar. They lived basically just on wheat and they had all those diseases. And the dad bod basically originated in Egypt. You look at sort of statues and how the men used to look. They had big belly and breasts basically from all the wheat they had. But yeah, sugar is the one. It's the killer. And I think if you could remove that, I think that it would be possible for humans and children to eat intuitively. If you
yeah.
never gave your child any sugar and you just put healthy options in front of them each meal and let them eat them, I think they would be healthy. But I don't think anyone's going to do that nowadays, and it's a real shame. There's just too much of this poisonous food out there, and as we know, it makes a lot of money for the health companies, it makes a lot of money for the food companies, and so
Yeah.
it's not going anywhere, is it?
No, and it's up to that individual whether they want to be a part of that. Personally, I've chosen not to be, but everyone has that choice to make, and it's also about their influences, peer pressure,
Yeah.
their fellow parents and colleagues, and it's all around them. You have to have that strength of character to say, well, I'm not going to eat that, and I'm not going to feed my kids that, or I'm going to keep it away from them as much as I can. And I think you've done a fantastic job with that yourself as a parent. So, but in terms of the intuitive eating, we have to get back to people have to get back to that, and because it's about trusting your body to make the food choices that are good for you. Without external influence or diet culture, for example. Most of us. Start to become like more disconnected and less trusting of our own internal wisdom, because of these external influences. But it's important to retain that wisdom and that instinct, and listen to your body. One of the main studies have shown that for example, that people who are obese, actually end up regaining the weight after initial weight loss. And most people in this category become something called cyclers, who experience inconsistent weight loss or inconsistent weight gain. And there's different reasons for that, but mostly it's because they are following a very stringent dieting plan as opposed to just actually learning good habits and learning about what optimal living is and listening to their body. Because dieting and very strict dieting can affect your metabolism, and it can affect your ability to detect hunger and fullness, and that is a big problem. If you have that issue, then you will continue eating when your body doesn't actually need it. And that's something that I've really tried to nail down. But in terms of, in a good way, whether I've had enough protein, whether I should have that extra pork steak or that extra, big spoonful of chili, that beef from beef mince, which is pretty healthy, or that extra half a burger. Should I have that? Okay, the content is very good, but ultimately I'm satiated, and I'm starting to. I'm really starting to focus on being more intuitive like that, and recognizing when you're full, But and not overdoing it, and just having that discipline and that trust yourself, have that trust in yourself to make those choices.
Yeah, and you raise a great point on the fact of people dieting and struggling to keep weight off and putting it back on, and that is why, and like you said, with following the diet plan and then they go back to eating, they don't have a clue, and that is why, with the health coaching that we do, focus on education. I don't give a client a set diet plan. I teach them how to eat. I give them advice on these are the things we should be eating. This is what we're going to try and eat. This is what we're going to try and not eat. We can have a little bit of this in, and we'll change it as we go. And then they choose how they eat themselves. Because, as you say, if you're not educating them, all you're going to do is, while they're with you, they're going to eat what they're told, and then as soon as they go, what they're going to do? They're going to go back to how they ate before. So you have to
Yeah,
teach them and educate them. This is how you eat. This is why you eat like this. This is what it does. These are the benefits. These are the reasons we don't eat like this. And you educate them. And that's the only way for it to be sustainable, that they have to
yeah,
be educated and understand. And then you teach them to do it themselves. As they say, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. It's the same with you teach them how to eat healthy. I could give you a plan to eat healthy for one day, but the next day you'll go back to unhealthy. But if I teach you how to eat healthy and what's healthy, you can do it yourself, which is our plan. I don't want to be coaching people for forever, like for a year. I want to do, it's maybe, depending on how much help they need, maybe a couple months tops, and then they should be self-sustainable. That's what I'm looking to do. And it's just the education and just teaching them. And then as
yeah,
well, like you said, as you do, and I do sometimes do, is if you know how to eat properly, you can eat properly, and then you can have a treat, and then you can go back to eating normally because you understand how to
yeah,
eat. For other people, if you don't know how to eat, you're kind of following healthy, and then you eat something unhealthy, and you think, well, actually, that was nice. Suddenly, you're eating all unhealthy again, following it along. So the education is really key, and also what you touched on with saying about how they're yo-yo dieters, on off on off. That's actually one of the signs of addiction. So there's 7 signs of addiction. Again, we'll do another podcast on this because there's a lot to get into, but that's
yeah,
one of
yeah.
that's one of the 7 signs of addiction, and food addiction basically ticks all the boxes, and that is one. The yo-yo diet is they're on off, like trying to get off it but then back on it and can't, and that's a clear sign. And food addiction is a real problem, and one of the biggest problems with food addiction is most people don't know that they're addicted to food. I mean, I suppose even with, alcohol and some drugs, some addicts might kind of struggle to admit they're an addict. People say the first step is to admit, but I think it's kind of a bit easier not easy as in easy, but it's a bit more obvious that they are an addict. But I think with food, it's kind of hard to tell. Some people look reasonably healthy. They can look in reasonably good shape, but be a food addict. It's not as obvious. It's not just fat people that are food addicts. There's some people who go to the gym all the time, and are doing everything to try and stay in shape, but inside, they could be a mess, and they cannot give up carbs and sugar because they're addicted. So it's not as easy to say. But you're completely right in what you're saying about the yo-yo dieting, and we need to educate people and listen to themselves. I've found it personally, I'm sure you have too, that as you clear all the rubbish, you do become an intuitive eater. I eat quite intuitively now. I don't have a set amount. I don't measure any food. Don't measure anything.
No,
I just eat. I'll plan out roughly. I'll have this meat, get that meat out of the freezer to have. If I eat something and I'm still hungry, I'll eat more. If I eat half of what I was planning to eat and I'm full, I'll stop. I've noticed that at first I found it strange because I found with certain products I could eat loads of it, like 2 plates of this, and yeah, brilliant. And other stuff, I'd eat like half the amount, and I couldn't eat any more. But what it was my body telling me, I've had enough of that. And I find it especially with fat, with fatty stuff. Now, fat's the most satiating of all
yeah,
the macronutrients. That's really what
sure,
fills you up and what tells you you're full. Because a lot of people say, I've noticed a lot of people within the kind of animal-based space saying that, oh yeah, eating the protein is what makes you full. But it's really not. It's the fat. I can eat protein all day. When I eat the fat, that's when I'm like, okay, full. Like I could eat just one. I remember one time and I was eating I could eat like 2 big steaks in a meal with eggs and still be a bit hungry. And I had a couple of beef short ribs, lovely. I love them. Delicious, super fatty. I just put two of them in a slow cooker to have for my dinner. I ate one and I could not eat any more. It's not that much, like that much meat. Could
Yeah,
not eat any
yeah,
more because I was full. And then I'm like, what's wrong? Like I need more food. I should eat more food. But then over time, as you said, you start to trust yourself because at first you don't. And now, if I get that feeling now, I'm like, well, fine. My body doesn't need any food, so I stop. And then I'll just eat again when I'm hungry. But it's interesting discovering that, and I believe that we do still have the ability to eat intuitively, but we need to remove the distractions and remove the sugar. And you need to have a strong mindset because you can't escape sugar unless you go and live in the middle of nowhere. You
yeah.
can't escape it. It's in your face. Everyone else is eating it, saying, "Why aren't you eating it?" And so you can't escape. So you've got to have a strong mindset. But if you ignore that and you're like, "Well, I'm not eating that. That's guaranteed. I'm just eating this," and then I think you can again become an intuitive eater, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. And there's, everyone's got to understand the reasons, the why as well, that they
Mm,
want to become that. That's also very important. Is it
yeah.
to lower their blood sugar, their blood pressure? Is it to lose weight? Is it to have more mental and physical energy, more clarity? Is it to try and eradicate certain chronic illnesses or chronic inflammation? That's very important as well. But just coming on to the fact that about the fat, that the fat is essentially what makes you feel very full. I mean, liver, for example, I had like a small bit, you know, maybe I think it was about maybe that size, and you cut it into little bits. It didn't actually physically look that much, but once I ate that, I actually felt really quite full, because the amount of fat that was in it, and it's super healthy. But small amounts of organ meat can really satiate you. And I learned next time not to eat the full pack. I just took
Yeah.
half. I took
Spread it
half. I
out.
went. I know I'm going to have a steak as well, and I want to enjoy the steak, so I'm not going to have
That's it.
all of everything in the liver. And I had like half of it, and that satiated me enough that set up the steak, and then I was full,
Yeah.
plenty of protein. But I just put that in a container and had it the next day. It was all fresh. But yeah, it is. It can be deceiving actually. But
Yeah.
I recognised that after a period of time and went, well, actually, I only need this amount of organ meat, in order to with this what I'm having for dinner in order to satiate myself. But when you actually physically look at it, it doesn't. You'll think, well, I'll eat all that and still want something else. Not necessarily the case
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to listen to your body, definitely.
with
And
with the content.
that's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's all about the
With with
content.
with the bonus, as you said there, of eating animal based as well, is that if you do have this much to eat and you find you can't eat all of it, you just put it in the fridge and have it for your next meal. Like it's never wasted. It's never wasted at all. And there's lots of stories as well within animal based. A lot with women as well who've come to animal based and they've got hormone problems, and they've lost periods and things like that. And when they first come, they just eat. Like they say, like they're just so hungry they can't. They're eating loads, eating really high fat, eating loads, and some of them might add a bit of weight on, but then their hormones sort themselves out. They kind of get their normal periods and their routine back, and then suddenly they're fine just eating once a day and normal. So again, it's you listen to your body. If you're eating animal based and you're constantly feeling hungry, then you're not eating enough. You've got to eat more. And that might only be for a period of time. You might be so low in nutrients from when you were eating poorly, your body just needs it. So it might be 3-4 weeks of eating so much, and then suddenly you might find that one average size meal a day is enough for you. It changes. Same with salt. I've seen a lot of people that when they first come to animal based eat a lot of salt and they crave it. I mean, I love having salt on my food and it's delicious, but at times you can really crave it, and then at other times, after a while, people start to use a bit less salt because maybe their body has replenished the salt that it needs. It's got enough now, and you don't need to have as much, and so you don't crave it as much. So I think you've really got to just listen to your body and trust it. But as we say, it's only possible to do when you're eating a proper diet. if you're eating a diet full of carbohydrates and full of sugar and plant-based foods and not eating animal proteins, you're not going to be able to listen to your body, because all your body's telling you is we're not full, eat more.
Yeah,
because it's not getting the nutrients it needs. It's getting the leptin signals being blocked. Your insulin's raised, your cortisol's raised, and your body's basically just telling you that you're starved and you're always hungry, and you're
yeah.
just going to keep eating. So it's only possible to do when eating properly. But if you're eating properly, I think 100% it's possible to do and to get back to intuitive eating for humans.
Yeah, it seems like it's the only way possible, because my nutrition is very much, intact now, especially with as I've incorporated fasting, and I can really tell when I've had enough. And I love food more than anyone. As you say, I used to have the standard, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything, and stuff in between. But now it's a complete 180, and never felt better. And it's just a great strength. It's all about the behaviours as well. It's about implementing the behaviours, the behavioural aspect, to change those habits, and your identity and your beliefs as well. If that comes from a place of, your identity and your belief system, that you want to live optimally and you want to be healthy, then you will start to listen more to your intuition, start acting more on that, and instead of going for sugary snacks and things in between, not having that discipline and knowing when to listen to your body when it's full, and curb the eating at that point, and just having more faith in your instinct as well. But a lot of it does come from, you have to have your belief system right first, and then from that the behaviours will follow. But yeah, as you say, it's intuitive eating is certainly a lot easier when you're eating optimally, and your body is telling you the truth about how it's actually feeling. And in this case, when you're full, and it's important not to overeat, even if you enjoy it. Eating can be a very enjoyable experience. It certainly has been for me, and I love cooking. I love making different things. I just love the whole aspect of it. But even though I could eat a bit more now, it would be purely for enjoyment, and it becomes a little bit pointless. I've enjoyed it enough, and it's just about having that discipline and that intuition and act on it.
Yeah, yeah, completely. It is, and as you say, with the being full, sometimes now I'll eat a meal, and I'll kind of be feeling like, am I? I kind of feel like I could eat more, but do I really need to? And I'll just take a break. I'll just 20, 30 minutes, and then I'll be like, okay, now if I feel really hungry, I'll eat more. If I still not sure, then I won't eat more. Because sometimes, because you're used to eating lots of food and you think you should eat more food, you think you're hungry. So yeah, it's trusting your body. So I think that will probably we've probably spoke enough, talked for long enough for today. So hopefully people have learnt that eating animal based is not more expensive, and it's
No.
absolutely worth it. And also that eating intuitively is possible if you eat the right diet. That's the two lessons that hopefully people have taken from today. It's been a pleasure again, Barry. I hope you've enjoyed yourself being back on the show.
Yep, as always, and great to discuss these issues and give the listeners, some more information about, how to eat optimally, and how to educate yourself, and
Yeah.
the knowledge is all out there.
Yeah.
And I think delving into the sort of the economic aspect of it, is very important, because we know that, people are on a budget, things have gone up, and people can educate themselves on how to eat optimally, but be aware of the things that they don't actually need to buy, as well, to cut out and focus on the stuff that matters. I think that will improve their, not only improve their health, but will improve it will help their financial situation as well. So,
Yeah.
having to educate and make people aware that there is other ways and better ways to navigate your food choices.
Absolutely. I agree. It's, as you say, it's a tough time financially for most people, and eating, if you're going to be careful about the way you buy things and you shop, an animal-based diet could be cheaper for you, could save you
Yeah,
money, as you say.
for sure.
It could be better on your waistband and better on your bank account, which will be a double
So
benefit. So
a
if
double win.
that's it. That double whammy. If people are interested in learning more, we have the Health Wealth platform, which we'll link it in podcast show notes, so you can get on there. And it's, as we say, it's like the cost of a cup of coffee a month. You can educate yourself on there. There's educational content goes up on there. And also, if you're interested in working one-to-one and having health coaching and really being educated on how to eat properly, how to optimize your health and cure any health conditions you might have, then also get in touch. You can go on the website, healthwealthuk.com, and get free consultations on there. And we'll see you again next week. Let's get optimal together. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast, or you'd like to appear on it, then please contact us at hwpoduk@gmail.com, on our website, which is healthwealthuk.com, or on any of our social medias, which are at hwpoduk. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share it with all your friends and family, and we will see you next week.